Mike Radich here, and I'm now joined on the phone by MMA veteran Alvin Robinson. Alvin, how are you?
I'm doing good. How are you, Mike?
I'm doing good. Alvin, congratulations on your victory at RFA 20 this past Friday night. You defeated Fabio Ciro via submission, of course, by way of rear naked choke, your trademark move. That was in the first round. Official time was 3 minutes and 14 seconds. Overall, how pleased were you with your performance in the fight?
I was really pleased with it. I was able to go out and execute. I would have liked to stand a little bit more, but when I started throwing my jab, he stepped and left his leg behind, so I grabbed it, and then I'm happy that I got on top and started dropping those elbows on him, dropping them bows, and was able to wrap up his neck. He's a good jiu-jitsu fighter, so I'm definitely happy.
When I looked at this fight on paper and I looked for the way that you could win this fight, Alvin, the fight played out the way I thought it was going to play out. I thought you were going to be able to get a takedown, do a little bit of ground and pound, make him so uncomfortable that he would give up his back, and then you'd lock up your trademark rear naked choke on him and finish him that way. The fight played out the way I thought it was gonna if you were able to get your hand raised. Like, that was the way I thought, okay, if you're gonna win this fight, that's how you do it. And obviously you executed perfectly, and that's how you got the stoppage. But going into the fight, was the game plan the result? Was the game plan going into the fight, get a takedown, make him uncomfortable, and then submit him? Was that the game plan going into the fight?
Yeah, absolutely. When I was warming up in the back, the last game before we went out with, my coach told me, Coach Adam Martinez told me, he said, you know what we came here to do? You know, punch him up, put him on his back, start smashing him with elbows, and choke him out. And exactly what happened. So, yeah, we came in well prepared.
Right, definitely. Now, in terms of percentages, I think you have the highest finishing rate with that particular move, the rear naked choke. Obviously, a guy like Drew Fickett, he has more rear naked choke victories than you do, but also he has 30 or 35 more fights than you do. So I think given the amount of fights you have and the amount of stoppages you have with that certain move, I think you have to have the highest finishing rate. So I'm just curious, how are you able to still lock up this submission after all these years? Obviously, when people sign on the dotted line to fight you, they know that this is a submission that you are very good at and you finished a lot of guys with, but you're still able to find it. That's what's very impressive about this whole thing, is people know it's coming, but they still can't stop it. I'm very impressed by this, so I'm just curious, how are you still able to lock up this submission after all these years?
I think it's my pressure on top. When I get on top of guys, I'm heavy, you know, and I put a lot of pressure. I start punching, I start dropping those elbows, and I like to think that I hit hard. Everybody that I've ever talked to, they tell me that I hit hard and that I have good pressure on top. And I just, you know, try to bait the guy. I start smashing him with elbows and give him a way out. The way out is turn to your knees and give me your neck. And, you know, a lot of guys do it, so.
Now, is that your favorite submission, the rear naked choke, or is that just the one that's been able to work for you in MMA?
I definitely like getting the rear naked choke. It's, you know, once you slap that on, it's hard to get out. You know what I mean? It's hard for the guys to get out. But for me, I just love jiu-jitsu, and that's what I'm going to be doing until I'm in my 90s. You know, that's the plan at least. So any way I can submit somebody, if I can get their neck, if I can get their arm, if I can get their leg, I'll take it. You know what I mean?
Right. I hear you. Alvin, have you outgrown your nickname, The Kid? Have you outgrown that nickname yet? Because obviously you've been around the sport for a long time now. You've fought in big shows. You've fought against tough competition. You've won titles. You've done some very good things in the sport, and you've been around for a while. You're not a kid anymore. You're a man now. Have you outgrown that nickname yet? Because I was thinking of some nicknames for you, like Mr. Rear Naked Choke or RNC or the Rear Naked Choker, something like that. Do you think you've outgrown that nickname, The Kid?
It's funny that you bring that up, because my wife, she recently, because we have triplet daughters now, and she recently, before this fight, she was saying that, she's like, you can't call yourself The Kid anymore. You're not a kid. You got to change it. You got to go with Big Daddy. So that's a possibility. You know what I mean? Possibly changing it to like Big Daddy or Big Papa or something like that. You know, I always preferred the Chipmunk because I got Alvin. I like the Chipmunk, but it's hard to make your own nicknames for yourself. You know, you just gotta let your coaches and your fans do that for you.
I'm just curious, who started calling you the Kid?
Actually, John Crouch. John Crouch, my original jiu-jitsu instructor. I was 18 years old when I walked into the academy, and everybody else there were in their 30s and 40s. And he kept calling me Alan, which my name was Alvin, so I would say, no, it's Alvin. And so he's like, oh, I'm sorry. You know what? I'm just going to start calling you the Kid. And so he started calling me the Kid, and so everybody that would come in to train, they just started calling me the Kid. And then I had my first fight a few months later. He was like, you're the Kid, man. You're the Kid. That's it. And it just stuck. So people that are close to me, they just started calling me the Kid, and that's what it's been ever since.
Okay, I knew there had to be a good story behind it. So it was John Crouch who gave you that nickname. Now I'm just curious, are you his first black belt?
Yeah, I'm John Crouch's first black belt. I was his first MMA fighter. So we actually both started that journey together. Him and I came in at 18 years old. I was, on break from college wrestling, and he had never trained any fighters. He had trained a couple of jiu-jitsu guys. He was trying to get off, on the right foot with his academy. And I told him, I said, I want to fight. And so he was like, let's do it, man. Let's get ready. Let's start training. And shoot, man, he's one of the best coaches in the world now.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely been a fun journey. It's definitely been a fun journey. But he always had it in him. He's an amazing teacher, and he just got away with coaching. And I mean, I knew from day one when I met him that he was the best coach out there. So I stuck around.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. This fight last Friday at RFA 20 was in Colorado, your home state. Now, it seems like whenever you fight in Colorado, you're on a different level. It seems like you always have your best performances when you fight in front of the hometown crowd. The only fights I think you've ever lost are against Cameron Dollar and Anthony Morrison, and those are two very good fighters, so no shame in either one of those losses. But besides that, you've performed very well fighting in Colorado. What is it about fighting at home? Why have you been able to perform so well when you fight in front of the hometown crowd?
I don't necessarily look at it like that. I just think that fighting is a tough sport, and you never know when you're going to win, you're going to lose. You just got to go out there and fight to the best of your ability and the best that you can that night. And sometimes it goes your way, sometimes it doesn't, and I'm starting to understand that more and more. And I definitely love fighting in front of my hometown of Colorado, but I mean, you win some, you lose some. It's just part of the game, man.
Right. Last Friday, what kind of crowd did you have at the event? How many people showed up to support the Kid?
It was actually a pretty big crowd. I was shocked when I heard the crowd erupt. It was definitely a good feeling. Colorado fans are some of the most loyal fans that there are. They'll stick with their fighters and their teams, win, lose, or draw. And that's one thing I love about the Colorado community is that they came out to support me. And I know that they would have been cheering for me, win, lose, or draw. So it's definitely an honor and a blessing to be able to go out there and win for my hometown,
Mm-hmm. Recently you said that you've been focusing more on having fun and enjoying the sport rather than winning and losing. I'm just curious, why the change? Why are you focusing more on enjoying the sport than the outcome of these fights?
It's just when you focus so much on winning and losing, it just becomes like any other thing, like a job. You know what I mean? Where you're like, man, I don't really want to. Sometimes I was stepping in the cage, especially in my last fight. I stepped in the cage and I was like, I don't even know if I really want to be here. I wasn't happy. I didn't really want to fight, and I've had that feeling before. And it's like, you know what? This is what I love to do. I love to get up and go train. I love to get up and fight and just have fun. Some of the closest guys, my closest friends are the guys that, we beat each other up more than anything, and we get up and we hug and we shake hands, and it's fun. And I think that for me, personally, I don't look at it like being, I gotta go kill this guy, like I used to. I look at it like, this is a sport. I'm an athlete. I gotta go out there and perform. And if I can do that, I believe I can beat anybody in the world.
Mm-hmm. When exactly did this outlook on fighting change from, okay, I'm going to go out and just rip this guy's head off, to this is a sport, I'm just going to go out and compete? How long ago?
Well, I'm a pastor now.
Right.
And when I started to take over the youth group at my church, I had a hard time with, because I used to be a mean guy. I would get in there and I would look at it like, I'm going to kill this guy. for a long time. And then I started getting, closer to God and becoming a youth leader. And then I struggled with, shoot, man, is this okay for me to do? I don't know if I can go in here and smash this guy up. And, just studying with my pastor and talking to him and him being like, look, man, this is a sport. It's just like if you were playing football or basketball, you go out there and you give it your best, you have fun. Whatever happens, you get up, you shake the guy's hand, you live to see another day. The people that love you, they're going to love you. The people that hate you, they're going to hate you no matter what. So just go out there and have fun. I guess it's kind of, I'm not a kid anymore, kind of like you were saying. I'm a man now. I'm an adult. I see the difference, and it's much more to me than it was before. Before it was about, I want to win championships. I want to be famous. I want to be rich. And now I don't care for that stuff. For me, it's about, reaching out to people and being a good role model, and letting kids know, look, you don't have to be a thug. You don't have to be a bad guy. You don't have to be in the club drinking to be a good fighter, to be a champion. You can be a family man. You can be a man of love. You can be a man of respect, and you can still be a champion. And that's what it's all about to me.
Mm-hmm. When you were going through the change of mindset, did you ever have any thoughts about retirement?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I've always thought, this is going to be my last fight, probably. I'm done, When you're not in the UFC, it's hard to get up for fights, and that's the honest truth. The UFC is just a whole other level, you know what I mean?
Right.
And it was getting tough for me for a long time. I wasn't having fun. I was always worried about, man, what if this happens? And what if I get knocked out? What if I lose this? And I'm worried about all this stuff. And it's like, you know what? I'm just going to go out there and have fun. I'm just going to go out there and fight the best of my ability, leave it out there on the line, that's what I want to be known for. I want to be known for, Alvin was a guy that went out there and fought. Win, lose, or draw, he fought. And that's what it's all about to me, and that can be, I look at that and I think that's what we should look at as fighters,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Now, you mentioned earlier some doubts that you had creep in your mind before fights, but I'm just curious, how many fights did you win with having some doubts? How you were having these doubts, but you still went out and performed. How many fights in your career would you say you were having questions, but still were able to perform on fight night?
I guess a lot, pretty much all of them. You know what I mean?
Really?
You always have those doubts and those questions in your mind. I didn't have them as much just like this last fight. I went out there, and the moment I walked through the cage, it was kind of like when I first started fighting. Once that bell rang, it was, I'm going through this guy. I don't care, man. I'm gonna take this guy out. And this last fight, it was kind of like that. When the bell rang, I just went out there and I started fighting, and it was fun. I had fun, and that's what it's all about.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Alvin, you fought at featherweight and at lightweight. You've won titles in both weight classes. You were the Aggression MMA featherweight champion, and you were the Ring of Fire lightweight champion. So you've done very well in both weight classes. You won titles in both of those weight classes. Going forward, what's the ideal weight class for you to be fighting in? Is it featherweight or is it lightweight? Do you have a preference either way?
I think that I'm more of a 145er. I look at some of those 55ers, and those guys are big, man. There's some big guys. When I was fighting at 55, I wasn't cutting much weight. I usually walk around 160, 165, and that's eating anything and everything I want. So 45 is probably, better suited for me, but if I got a call from the UFC to fight at 155, I wouldn't turn it down, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Alvin, since 2010, the most amount of fights you've had in a single year has been 2. In 2010, you fought twice. 2011, you fought twice. 2012, only 1 fight. 2013, only 1 fight. And so far this year, you've only fought twice. And with the year winding down, I don't know if you'll be able to fit in another fight. So most likely you'll probably end this year with only 2 fights. Now, I'm just curious, why haven't you been able to get in more than 2 fights a year? Obviously, you have a fight, then you go away for a little while, you have another fight. There's a lot of inactivity in your record. I'm just curious, why the inactivity?
Believe it or not, it's not by choice. I always am looking for fights. I'm always looking to fight, and whether it be injury or, opponents getting injured, or, just they can't find opponents for me. I've been, unfortunately having to sit around a lot. And, when I fought, I think after I fought Adam Lorenz, I had like 5 fights scheduled in a row, and every single one of them fell out. And so, there was times where I was training for like a year straight, and I couldn't find a fight. And then when I finally would find a fight, then I would get hurt. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because I've been training so long. And so, it's just part of the game, man. It's a rough sport.
Right. Now, what exactly happened with MFC? Obviously, you were scheduled to fight at MFC 41 back on October 3rd. It was a very good matchup. I really would have loved to have seen that fight between you and Andrew McInnes. He's a grappler like yourself. That would have been a fun fight on the ground. And I thought MFC was a very good fit for you because if you were able to get past McInnes, you would have probably gotten a title shot. And Tom Galicchio, who's the MFC lightweight champion, he's a grappling heavy fighter, so those would have been very fun fights. I thought that organization was a good fit for you. What exactly happened with MFC? That fight didn't take place, and now you're not with them anymore. What exactly happened with MFC?
I was training for that fight, and like you said, I thought it was going to be a great opportunity. And Mark Pavlich is actually a really good guy. I talked to him a couple times. And I was excited for the fight, and I injured my hand in training, and I wasn't able to spar. And so I called up Mark and I said, "Hey man, I'm gonna have to pull out of this fight." It was like 3 weeks before the fight. I said, "I'm not able to spar. I'm not able to train. I really wasn't able to grapple or anything because I had injured my hand." And so I pulled out of that fight, and a few weeks later, I think it was actually the week of the fight. I was like, you know what, I'm going to go try to train because they called me and offered me Fabio Sahau. And so I said, I'm going to go try to train. I'm going to see how my hand feels. I haven't done anything, And so I went to the gym and I trained, and it was sore, but I was able to train. And so I said, okay, I'm going to rest it one more week, but I'll start getting in shape and I'll start working my cardio and stuff. And so the actual week of the fight, there was no way I would have been able to fight and compete at that level with somebody like the opponent that I had. Andrew McInnes is a tough guy. I respect him too much as a fighter to go in there out of shape and not trained. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
okay.
Yeah, he's talking a lot of trash and stuff, which that stuff doesn't bother me that much. If we cross paths, and he'll be sorry for running his mouth.
Right. Yeah, too bad. I think it would have been a good fit for you fighting for MFC. Maybe the McKinnon's fight will happen in the future. Hopefully it will. We'll just have to see. I guess time will tell. But anyways, Alvin, I'm just curious. You just had this fight for RFA. Was this a multiple fight deal with RFA? Do you have a multiple fight contract with RFA? Or was this just a one-off because you're a Colorado guy, they were putting on a show in Colorado? What exactly is your contract status with RFA?
As far as I know, I have a contract with them. I don't know if I'll be on the next Colorado card. I talked to Ed Soros after the fight, and he said he'd definitely love to have me back. So we'll see. I mean, I also had that offer to fight Raoni Barcelos about a year ago when my daughters were born, and that would have been definitely a tough fight and a good fight. And he just almost fought for the title. So I think I'm close. I think I'm close to getting back into the UFC, and whatever fights I got to take to get there, I'm going to take them.
Right. You just fought for RFA, and before that you fought for Titan, and these are known AAA teams, if you will, to the UFC. They're organizations that are geared towards getting guys who are up-and-coming prospects, getting them into the UFC, or getting established veterans like yourself, getting them back to the UFC. Is that the game plan going forward? Is that the only big show that you have interest in fighting for, the UFC?
Yeah, I want to definitely end my career in the UFC. Since the first time I stepped in the cage, the goal was always to be the UFC champion, and that's the reason why I still want to compete, and I still believe I can become the champion, and so of the UFC, and I definitely want to work my way back to that show, to the biggest show that there is, Mm-hmm. So we'll see what happens, man. I'm taking it one day at a time, one fight at a time, and just leave it in the Lord's hands and seeing what happens. But I definitely want to be back in the UFC. That's where I want to end my career.
Right. Alvin, where exactly do you train at? What's your home gym? Because I looked on the internet and I've looked at all these different databases, SureDog, MixedMartialArts.com, your Wikipedia page. I've looked at all of them, and they all say different places for where you train at. Nate Marquardt, he was on Access TV. He was doing a little interview with Pat Miletich. He said that you've been doing some training with him. So I'm just curious, where exactly are you training at nowadays?
I get along with all the gyms, so I train at several different gyms. My home gym is Infinite MMA in Loveland, which is underneath Adam Martinez, who's a Horse Gracie black belt. And then I also train out of the Grudge Training Center with Justin Gaethje and Justin Salas and, all the guys over there, Trevor Whitman's guys. I go to Elevation and I train there. I was actually roommates with Lisa Bowling, and I've known Nate Marquardt and all those guys for a long time. So I go train with them, wrestling and sparring sometimes. I train at Easton gym sometimes. There's a guy named Marcelo Mota here, Prime Jiu-Jitsu in Colorado Springs. I go train with him. It's just something that I've developed and I'm thankful for. I have a good relationship with pretty much everybody in Colorado, and 303 Training Center, Tony Basile School. I go to all those schools, and I try to keep a good relationship and get the best, because Colorado has some of the best fighters, best jiu-jitsu guys, best wrestlers in the world. And so I go and try to get a little bit here and there everywhere I can go.
Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, you've been around the game for a very long time, and you have a lot of knowledge both in MMA and in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Do you teach anyone? Are you an instructor at any of these places?
I was teaching at the Grudge Training Center and at 303 Training Center, but it's tough for me because, like I said, I'm a youth leader at Bethel Biblical Church, youth pastor, and that's more of my passion as far as teaching. I like teaching the Word of God and stuff like that, so I do that more, and I try to focus on that more. The teaching that I do, I teach for free to try to give back to, at-risk youth or underprivileged youth and stuff like that.
Okay, I see. Now, I don't know if you mentioned or not, or maybe I missed it, but how long have you been a pastor?
Just 1 week. Officially 1 week. I got ordained a week ago.
Oh, okay.
And I've been doing the youth group. I've been a youth leader for several years now. But actually, my Pastor Bob Hooley, presented me with my certificate of ordination the Sunday of the week of my fight. So big time accomplishment in my eyes.
Right, definitely. Have you been a lifelong Christian? Have you always been very religious?
Yeah, I'm definitely a lifelong Christian, a believer, and I haven't always walked it. There was a time in my life where I did a bunch of stuff that was foolish and all that crazy stuff. But now I'm a real believer as far as I don't just talk it, I walk it. I try to be the best man I can be and show the love of Jesus to the world, man. That's what it's all about. So Right. Now, up until a week ago, how were you paying your bills? Obviously, these fights have not been, frequent. There's been big gaps in between your record here. So how have you been able to make a living? Obviously, you're just starting a new chapter, but before this, how are you paying the bills? Just different jobs, and we made a lot of investments. Early on in our relationship, my wife and I, we invested in a couple properties. So we own a couple houses, and we rent those out. My wife works. Actually, she doesn't work anymore, but she was working. And, I also work, odds and end jobs here and there. So we make it work, man. We make it work, and the God always looks out for us. He provides for us, and we're blessed, man. We're blessed for sure.
Right. I love that shirt that you were wearing the other night. That's a very cool shirt.
Oh, the Jesus Superman shirt?
Yeah, that's a good shirt.
Yo, heck yeah, man. My buddy with Mama Tried, he, I told him, I said, hey, man, I wanted to say Jesus, but I want the S to be the Superman logo. And he drew it up, man. That's my one sponsor. So he drew it up, man, and it's awesome.
Right. Now, you mentioned earlier that you're a father. You have 3 triplet daughters. What's that like? Because obviously, you're fighting, you're training, doing all this training. Then when you come home, that's supposed to be rest time, but you're on baby duty. So how's that been like? How was it like for this last fight, preparing for a fight, but also having to take care of your kids?
It's tough sometimes, but my wife is full-time mama, and she's a good mom. And my girls they're really good. They're really well behaved. They're not crybabies or anything like that. They'll cry a little bit when they're hungry, or if they need their diaper changed. But for the most part, man, we are so blessed with these girls. They're good girls. They're happy. They love to play, and it's not bad at all. It's actually probably one of the things I look forward to the most, if not the most, to coming home, when I'm training, just to see my girls, just to come home and hug them and kiss them and spend time with them, and it's just an amazing experience.
Mm-hmm. Happy and healthy, that's what it's all about.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yep.
It wasn't like that when they were born 2.5 months early, mm-hmm. and so they were down to 2 pounds each. And it was pretty crazy early on. We lived in the hospital for 4 months. My wife and I, we put our lives on hold, and we were parents. You know what I mean? We stayed at the hospital 24/7, 4 months, and took care of our girls. That's what we're supposed to do as parents. And now we're home. This is easy.
Right. Now, a lot of fighters say when they become a parent, their outlook on fighting changes. Has it changed for you? Has that been another factor in your different outlook on fighting?
I don't think it changed me. I'm always been a pretty sensitive guy, I guess you could say. Right. I grew up with all girls. My mom and my 2 older sisters, so that's nothing new to me. I'm a loving person. I love people. So that didn't change. I'm still that way. So I would say that didn't affect me as much as, some other factors and stuff like that.
Okay. I see. Obviously, you've had some injuries which has caused a lot of your inactivity, but I'm just curious, in a perfect world, if you could determine how many times you fight a year, what's a good number of fights in a year for you? Is it 3? Is it 4? Is it more? What's a good amount of fights for you? If you could write the story for yourself, how many times a year would you be fighting? What's a good number?
I would say 3 to 5 would be perfect for me. I'm always training, and the thing is, I'm always in the gym, I'm always training, I'm always sparring, and I'm always in shape, so I can always take fights, as long as I'm not injured. And I would love to I would love to get back to the UFC and fight 3 or 4 times a year, work my way up to that title, and, hopefully win that belt, and then hang them up, call it quits.
Mm-hmm. Have you put a set amount of fights and amount of years that you want to continue to do this for? Obviously, you're not, you've been fighting for a very long time, but you're not that old. You're only 32. You're still a young man in my eyes. So do you have a set number of amount of years you still want to do this for, or are you just playing it by ear?
I'm just playing it by ear. Because, I'm a dad. I guess the question you said, being a parent, does it change you? I guess I was wrong. It does change me because I guess I look at it. I was watching that. I like BJ Penn-Elias, one of my favorite fighters. Mm-hmm. And I was watching the thing about him and how he was saying early on in his career, if you would have asked him what's life all about, he would have said fighting women and food. And I was kind of along those lines. And he's like, now I have a family. He's all, God, family, health. Those things are important now, where before it wasn't. And I guess that is for me too. Before I would train and you bang up your knee, your shoulder, you get kicked in the head or something, and you're back in the gym the next day. And now, I think twice. I'm thinking like I got a family, so I got to be smart. I got to take care of my body. I got to fight still a little bit smarter. I got to train a little bit smarter, and so I can make this last for as long as it needs to last. Mm-hmm. Like I said, I want to become the champion of the world. If I can do it, I plan on doing it. So I guess there's no set plan. As long as I'm healthy and I'm still able to compete at a high level and an elite level, I think that I'm going to keep fighting.
Mm-hmm. Right. Now, you mentioned that you have a contract with RFA, and you just had a great performance. I wouldn't be a bit surprised if they put you in a title fight next when you make your return with RFA. So, realistically, how close do you think you are to getting a call back to the UFC? Obviously, you've had some losses, but when you've won, you've looked very impressive, and you're back on the winning track here. You just picked up a win last Friday. So, realistically, how close do you think you are to getting a call from the UFC?
I think I'm looking at 1 to 2 fights before I get that call, and I would love to fight for that title. You know, the champion is from the Ultimate Fighter. I'm trying to think of his name. He's a real tough fighter, real good guy. I would love to step up and fight him and win that belt, because you know that RFA title means UFC contract. So I would love to take on that challenge.
Justin Lawrence is the champion of RFA right now. Yeah. That'd be a great fight. I hope they put that on next. That'd be a fun one. 2 guys who fought in the UFC before. I think it makes sense.
If they want an exciting fight, they should put it on, man. I'll go out there and shoot whatever they want. They want us to stand, I'll stand. If they want us to grapple, I'll grapple. You know what I mean? I'm ready for whatever, but I would love to fight for that title, you know, and work my way back to the show.
Yeah, that sounds like a plan. That sounds good. I hope they put that fight on. And, well, Alvin, once again, congratulations on your victory at RFA 20, and thank you for taking the time to talk today. I really appreciate it.
Mike, thank you, man. I appreciate the time, sir.